The morning started like any other aboard the human battleship Soul's Pride. Admiral Tae-min was drinking his coffee and reading reports when the alarms began screaming across the bridge. Red lights flashed everywhere as officers rushed to their stations. "Admiral, we have multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace," shouted Lieutenant Nari from her sensor station. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook as she worked the controls. "Sir, there are hundreds of them." Tae-min set down his coffee cup and walked to the main viewing screen. What he saw made his blood run cold. Massive alien ships appeared in space like ghosts becoming solid. They were sleek and beautiful, made of some kind of silver metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Energy fields surrounded each vessel, crackling with blue and purple electricity. "How many ships, Nari?" Tae-min asked. 347 confirmed contacts, sir. More still arriving. Nari's voice got quieter. "Admiral, these ships are huge. The smallest one is bigger than our largest battleship." Commander Hye-jin hurried onto the bridge, still putting on her uniform jacket. She had been sleeping when the alarms went off. "What's the situation, Admiral?" "We have visitors," Tae-min said, pointing at the screen. "And they didn't come to trade recipes." The alien fleet arranged itself in perfect formation around Earth. Their ships moved without visible engines, sliding through space like fish through water. Each vessel was different, but clearly built by the same race. Some looked like long spears, made of crystal. Others were round like metallic moons. All of them bristled with weapon ports that glowed with contained energy. "Sir, incoming transmission," reported Communications Officer Dong-ho. "They're using our own frequencies somehow." "Put it on screen," Tae-min ordered. The main viewer flickered and showed an alien face. The creature was tall and thin with pale blue skin and large black eyes. It wore what looked like armor, made of the same glowing metal as their ships. When it spoke, its voice came through the speakers in perfect Korean. "Primitive inhabitants of the third planet," the alien said. Its voice sounded bored, like someone reading a shopping list. "I am Fleet Commander Veltan of the Villani Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our domain." Hye-jin moved closer to Tae-min. "Integration?" she whispered. The alien continued speaking. "We have studied your species for some time. Your technology is laughably primitive. Your weapons are museum pieces. Your ships move with chemical rockets like toys. We find it almost amusing that you consider yourselves ready for space travel." Behind Commander Veltan, other aliens could be seen working at control stations. Their equipment looked impossibly advanced, with holographic displays and controls that responded to thought rather than touch. "We are not unreasonable," Veltan went on. "We offer you the choice that we offer all inferior species. Submit now, and your population will be preserved as workers. Resist, and your cities will be turned to glass as examples to others." Captain Dong-woo entered the bridge at that moment. He was an older man with scars on his hands from the Mars colonial wars 20 years ago. He took one look at the screen and shook his head. "Same old story. Big ships, big talk, small brains. You will have 72 of your planet's rotations to consider our offer," Veltan said. "Use this time wisely. Study our vessels if you wish. Your primitive sensors will show you the futility of resistance." The transmission ended and the screen went black. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet beeping of equipment. Finally, Tae-min spoke. "Analysis, people. What are we looking at?" Nari pulled up her sensor readings on the main screen. "Sir, their ships are using some kind of energy shielding I've never seen before. Our scans barely penetrate it. What I can detect shows power signatures that are off the charts." "Weapons?" asked Hye-jin. "Energy-based, as far as I can tell. Plasma cannons, particle beams, something that looks like it could disrupt matter at the molecular level." Dong-woo laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Let me guess. They've never seen a good old-fashioned bullet before." "Captain, this isn't funny," Hye-jin said. "Their technology is clearly superior to ours." "Maybe," Dong-woo replied. "Or maybe they just have better marketing. I've fought aliens before, Commander. The Regellians had fancy energy weapons too. Know what beat them? Kinetic kill vehicles and nuclear warheads. Simple, reliable, and effective. Taemin studied the alien ships on screen. They hung in space like silver ornaments, beautiful and deadly. Nari, what about their tactics? They're arranged in a standard blockade formation, sir. Textbook orbital siege positioning. They're confident we can't challenge them directly. And they're probably right, said Hyojin. Admiral, our weapons are exactly what they said. Chemical rockets, ballistic missiles, nuclear warheads. Even our newest ships use technologies that are decades old. Centuries old in some cases, added Dongwu with a grin. The soul's pride here is running on technology that dates back to the first Mars colonies. Steel hull, chemical thrusters, magnetic railguns that fire chunks of metal. Then how do we fight them? Hyojin asked. Taemin was quiet for a long moment, watching the alien ships patrol around Earth. Finally, he smiled. It was not a nice smile. Who says we're going to fight them with what they expect? Sir? Nari looked confused. These Villani have made one very important mistake, Taemin explained. They think old means useless. They see our chemical rockets and assume we're primitives. They look at our steel ships and laugh at our crude technology. But sir, they're right, Hyojin protested. We are using old technology. Are we? Taemin turned to face his officers. Dongwu, how long have humans been improving their weapons? Since the first caveman picked up a rock, sir. Exactly. And do we throw away good ideas just because they're old? Understanding began to dawn on Hyojin's face. You mean we've been upgrading our old weapons? Not just upgrading, Taemin said. We've been perfecting them. Nari, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them to activate Project Anvil. Sir, what's Project Anvil? Nari asked as she worked her controls. Something these aliens are about to learn the hard way, Taemin replied. They think our weapons are relics, museum pieces, ancient history. He looked back at the alien fleet surrounding Earth, his smile growing wider. They're about to discover that some relics bite back. Down on Earth, in secret facilities hidden beneath mountains and under ocean floors, ancient-looking weapons began to power up. Missiles that looked like they belonged in museums started their final countdown sequences. Satellites that appeared to be obsolete communication relics oriented themselves toward the alien fleet. The countdown had begun. In 72 hours, the Villani Empire would learn why humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of making old things deadly. They thought Earth's weapons were museum pieces. Soon their own ships would be the exhibits. Dr. Sunja walked into the Emergency War Council room carrying a heavy briefcase and looking tired. She had been awake for 18 hours straight, pulled from her university office to brief Earth's top military leaders. The room was full of generals, admirals, and scientists, all looking worried as they watched news feeds showing the alien fleet surrounding their planet. Ladies and gentlemen, General Kyung-ho announced as Sunja set up her presentation. Dr. Sunja is our leading expert on military history. She has something important to tell us about fighting enemies with better technology. Sunja activated the holographic projector. Images filled the air above the conference table. Ancient battles, old weapons, warriors from different time periods. The first thing you need to understand, she began, is that humans have always faced enemies with better equipment. The images shifted to show Roman legions fighting Germanic tribes. The Romans had professional armies, advanced tactics, superior armor and weapons. But the Germanic tribes won many battles because they used their simple weapons in unexpected ways. More images appeared. English longbowmen at Agincourt shooting down French knights. Vietnamese fighters defeating American forces with simple traps and old rifles. Afghan rebels stopping Soviet tanks with shoulder-fired missiles. Every time in history when humans faced superior technology, we found ways to make our old weapons work better, Sunja continued. We don't abandon good ideas just because something newer comes along. We improve them. Admiral Taemin leaned forward. But doctor, those are examples from Earth wars. These aliens have technology that seems impossible. Sunja smiled and clicked to the next image. It showed a simple wooden crossbow next to a modern compound bow. This crossbow is 2,000 years old. This compound bow was made last year. Which one do you think shoots arrows faster and more accurately? The modern bow, obviously, said General Park. Wrong, Sunja replied. They're almost equal in performance. The crossbow was so well designed that even with 2,000 years of improvement, we've only made it slightly better. Good design doesn't become useless just because it's old. She clicked again. The images now showed human weapons from the last 50 years. Missiles, tanks, ships, all looking somewhat outdated compared to the sleek alien vessels on the news feeds. This is what the Vellani see when they look at our weapons, Sunja explained. Old chemical rockets, ancient nuclear warheads, steel ships that look like they belong in museums. They think we're primitive because our technology looks familiar to them. But we are using old technology, protested Colonel Minsu. Our newest battleship uses designs from 30 years ago. General Kyung-ho stood up and walked to the front of the room. That's where you're wrong, Colonel. Dr. Sunja, thank you for the history lesson. Now let me show everyone what we've really been building. He pressed a button on his remote control. The holographic display changed to show technical drawings of human weapons. But these weren't the simple designs everyone expected. The missiles had complex internal systems. The ships had hidden compartments filled with unknown technology. The nuclear warheads had been modified with equipment that looked like science fiction. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Project Anvil, Kyung-ho announced. For 50 years, we've been taking our primitive weapons and making them better, much better. The room erupted in surprised voices. Officers leaned forward to study the technical drawings more closely. What they saw didn't match what they thought they knew about human weapons. Our missiles still use chemical propulsion, Kyung-ho continued, but now they also carry quantum targeting systems stolen from crashed alien probes. Our nuclear warheads still split atoms, but we've enhanced them with exotic matter that makes the explosions 10 times more powerful. Commander Hee-jin, who had come down from the Soul's Pride for the briefing, raised her hand. Sir, how long have we been doing this? Since the first alien contact 73 years ago, Kyung-ho replied. When the Rigelian scout ship crashed in the Pacific, we learned that we weren't alone in the universe. We also learned that we were behind in technology, so we started Project Anvil. He clicked to the next image. It showed what looked like an old space station orbiting Earth. This looks like a decommissioned communication satellite from the 2090s. It's actually a kinetic bombardment platform. We call them rods from God because they drop tungsten rods from orbit. That's not new technology, said Admiral Chen. Kinetic bombardment has been around for decades. You're right, Kyung-ho smiled. But these rods aren't ordinary tungsten anymore. They've been enhanced with gravitational amplifiers. When they hit a target, they don't just punch holes. They create localized gravitational fields that can crack continents. Engineer Bo-ram entered the briefing room at that moment, carrying a tablet and looking excited. Sorry I'm late, General. The final tests on the orbital platforms are complete. How many do we have operational? Kyung-ho asked. 47 platforms positioned around Earth. Each one carries 20 enhanced kinetic rods. The aliens have been scanning them for 2 days and classifying them as obsolete communication equipment, Bo-ram reported with a grin. Perfect, Kyung-ho said. What about the fighter squadrons? Captain Ji-ho's pilots are ready, sir. Their ships look like antiques from the outside, but the engines have been rebuilt with hybrid technology. Chemical combustion for normal flight, quantum drives for combat situations. Sunja looked around the room at the amazed faces of the military officers. This is what I was trying to explain about human warfare. We don't replace our weapons when something better comes along. We make our weapons better. General Kyung-ho nodded. The Vellani Empire has conquered 12 worlds in the past 50 years. Every enemy they've faced tried to match their advanced technology with new weapons. All of them failed. He gestured to the holographic displays showing human weapons that looked old but contained hidden improvements. We took a different approach. Instead of building new weapons to fight aliens, we made our old weapons capable of killing aliens. But will it work? Asked Admiral Tae-min. Their technology is still superior to ours. Maybe, Kyung-ho replied. But they're not fighting our technology. They're fighting our thinking. And humans have been thinking about better ways to kill things for a very long time. The briefing continued for another hour, as military leaders learned about weapons they thought they knew. Chemical explosives enhanced with exotic matter, steel armor plating that could deflect energy beams, computer systems that looked primitive, but were actually quantum processors disguised as simple electronics. When the meeting ended, the officers filed out with new understanding. Their weapons weren't museum pieces after all. They were traps waiting to be sprung. Dr. Sunja packed up her briefcase and prepared to leave. As she reached the door, General Kyung-ho called after her. "Doctor, do you really think we can win against technology this advanced?" Sunja turned back and smiled. "General, humans invented the wheel 5,000 years ago. We're still using it. Good ideas don't die just because something newer comes along. They get better." Outside, the alien fleet continued its patrol around Earth, confident that victory was assured. Their advanced sensors had cataloged human weapons and found them laughably primitive. Chemical rockets, ballistic missiles, nuclear warheads that belonged in museums. They had no idea that those museum pieces had been waiting 50 years for exactly this moment. The 72-hour deadline arrived with the morning sun rising over Earth's Pacific Ocean. In space, the Volani fleet moved from patrol formation into attack positions. Their ships spread out like a silver net around the planet, weapons charging, with visible energy that made the hulls glow blue and purple. Admiral Taemin stood on the bridge of Seoul's Pride, watching the enemy fleet arrange itself for destruction. His ship looked old and worn compared to the gleaming alien vessels, but appearances could be very deceiving. Behind him, his crew worked at stations that looked like they belonged in a museum, but housed technology that would surprise their enemies. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Volani flagship," reported Communications Officer Dong-ho. "Put it on screen." Commander Veltan's blue face appeared on the viewing screen, looking as bored as he had 3 days ago. "Primitive humans, your time has expired. You have chosen resistance over wisdom. This is unfortunate but not unexpected from a species that still uses chemical combustion to reach orbit." Behind him, alien crew members worked at their advanced stations. Their weapons systems showed full charge status, ready to begin the destruction of human civilization. "Your museums will remember this day as the moment your species learned its place in the galaxy," Veltan continued. "We will begin with your orbital installations, then proceed to your largest population centers. Perhaps future generations will be wiser." The transmission ended. Taemin turned to his crew. "All stations prepare for combat. Send the signal to Earth Command." Down on Earth, in secret bunkers and hidden command centers, military officers received the code phrase they had been waiting 50 years to hear: "The museum is now open." In space, the Volani fleet began its attack. Energy beams lanced out from their ships, striking human orbital stations and defense platforms. The first targets were vaporized instantly, turned into expanding clouds of metal vapor and superheated gas. It looked like the aliens had been right about human technology being primitive. "Their weapons are as powerful as we expected," reported Lieutenant Nari from her sensor station. "Sir, we're losing our outer defense ring." "Let them think. They're winning," Taemin replied calmly. "Dongwoo, are your people ready?" Captain Dongwoo grinned as he checked his weapons console. "Admiral, my missiles have been waiting their whole lives for this moment." "Then show our guests what happens when you underestimate a species that turned rocks into nuclear weapons." Dongwoo pressed the firing button. From Seoul's Pride and dozens of other human ships, missiles launched toward the alien fleet. They looked exactly like the ballistic weapons the Volani had studied and dismissed. Chemical propulsion systems pushed simple metal warheads through space at speeds that seemed laughably slow compared to energy weapons. The Volani point defense systems activated automatically. Energy beams and particle streams reached out to intercept the incoming missiles. Their targeting computers had already calculated the trajectories and determined that stopping these primitive weapons would be simple. The first wave of missiles flew straight into the defensive fire and exploded harmlessly, exactly as predicted. Veltan allowed himself a small smile as he watched the primitive human weapons destroyed before reaching their targets. Then the second wave arrived, and everything changed. The missiles approaching the Volani cruiser Eternal Dominion looked identical to the first wave, But as the defensive energy beams struck them, something impossible happened. The beams passed right through the warheads, as if they weren't there. "Phase shift engaged," reported Weapons Officer So Young from her station on the Hidden Earth command ship. "Quantum tunneling fields are active." The missiles that had seemed solid moments before were now existing in a slightly different dimension, invisible to the alien sensors and immune to their energy weapons. They passed through the Volani shields like ghosts and exploded inside the alien hulls. But these weren't the nuclear explosions the Volani expected. The warheads had been enhanced with zero-point energy extracted from the quantum vacuum itself. The explosions didn't just destroy matter, they tore holes in space-time. Eternal Dominion shuddered as impossible energies ripped through its structure. Hull plating that could withstand stellar radiation cracked and peeled away. Internal systems that had never failed began shutting down, as reality itself became unstable around them. "Impossible," Veltan whispered as alarm screamed throughout. His ship. "Those were primitive nuclear weapons." "Sir, we're detecting massive structural damage throughout the fleet," reported his science officer. "These explosions are beyond our understanding of human technology." But the humans weren't finished. From what had appeared to be obsolete fighter platforms, squadrons of small craft launched toward the alien fleet. They looked like antiques compared to the sleek Volani vessels, with chemical rocket engines that left visible exhaust trails and weapons that seemed crude by galactic standards. Pilot Jiho led the first squadron of these primitive fighters. His ship looked like it had been built 50 years ago and forgotten in a scrapyard. The hull was scarred metal, the engines roared with chemical combustion, and the weapons were simple kinetic projectiles. "Dragon Squadron, this is Dragon Leader," Jiho spoke into his radio. "Time to show these aliens what old-fashioned human engineering can do." The Volani fleet turned their point defense systems toward the approaching fighters. Energy beams reached out to swat down what appeared to be easy targets. Their computers calculated interception courses for enemies moving at chemical rocket speeds. They were not prepared for what happened next. Jiho's fighter suddenly accelerated beyond anything chemical propulsion could achieve. Hidden quantum drive systems activated, pushing his small craft to velocities that bent space around it. In seconds, he went from flying like an antique to moving faster than most Volani interceptors. "What the hell was that?" demanded Veltan, as the human fighters suddenly became blurs of motion on his screens. "Sir, they're exceeding our maximum interceptor speeds," his tactical officer reported. "These readings must be incorrect." But the readings were accurate. Human fighters that had looked like museum pieces were now dancing between Volani ships like angry wasps. Their weapons, which had appeared to be simple machine guns, revealed themselves as mass drivers firing depleted uranium rounds at significant fractions of light speed. Fighter pilot Hai Sung dove her craft between two Volani destroyers, her primitive, gun-stitching lines of relativistic projectiles across their hulls. The rounds punched through advanced armor plating like it was paper, carrying kinetic energy that no chemical propulsion system should have been able to generate. From Earth's orbital defense platforms, engineer Boram watched the battle unfold on her screens. The platforms still looked like decommissioned communication satellites, and the Volani had ignored them completely. That was about to be a fatal mistake. "Orbital strike control to all platforms," Boram announced over the secure channel. "You are authorized to engage Project Rod of God. Let's show them what gravity can do." Around Earth's orbit, 47 platforms that had been dismissed as space junk suddenly came to life. What the aliens had classified as obsolete communication equipment revealed its true nature as humanity's ultimate kinetic weapon system. Tungsten rods began dropping toward the Volani fleet. Each rod was 2 meters long and 30 centimeters wide, made of the densest metal humans could manufacture. But these weren't simple kinetic projectiles. They had been enhanced with gravitational manipulation technology that multiplied their effective mass by factors of hundreds. The first rod struck the Volani flagship with the force of a small asteroid. But instead of just punching a hole, the enhanced projectile created a localized gravity well that crushed everything within a kilometer radius. The massive alien ship folded in on itself like paper being crumpled by an invisible hand. Sir, we're losing ships throughout the fleet, reported Veltan's tactical officer, his voice rising in panic. These humans aren't using primitive weapons at all. They've been deceiving us. Veltan stared at his screens in disbelief as his superior fleet was torn apart by enemies he had dismissed as primitives. Ships that had conquered worlds were being destroyed by weapons that looked like they belonged in museums. Send a priority message to High Command, he ordered. Tell them we have gravely underestimated human capabilities. These are not the primitive, chemical weapons we expected, but it was too late for warnings. The human counterattack was already in full swing, and the Villani were learning a painful lesson about the difference between old technology and obsolete technology. In space, around Earth, the hunters had become the hunted. The Villani fleet was in chaos. Ships that had conquered a dozen worlds were burning and spinning out of control. Commander Veltan's flagship listed badly to one side, its elegant hull cracked open like an egg. Emergency lights flickered throughout the bridge as his crew struggled to understand how their superior technology was being defeated by primitive humans. Damage report, Veltan demanded, clutching his command chair as the ship shuddered from another impact. Sir, we've lost 60% of our fleet in the first hour of combat, his tactical officer reported, her voice shaking. The human weapons are not what they appeared to be. Our energy shields are useless against their projectiles. How is that possible? They're using chemical rockets and metal bullets. Sir, those metal bullets are moving at 12% of light speed. Their chemical rockets are somehow generating quantum tunnel effects. These humans have hidden their real technology inside primitive-looking weapons. Captain Yu-Jin watched the alien flagship struggle from her position aboard the stealth destroyer Incheon Ghost. Her ship had been floating among the orbital debris for 3 days, disguised as a piece of space junk. The Villani sensors had scanned right over it dozens of times without detecting the hidden warship. Target the alien command ship's power core, Yu-Jin ordered her weapons officer. Load torpedo tubes with exotic matter warheads. Lieutenant Minho checked his targeting display. Captain, we have a clear shot. Their shields are focused on the main battle. They haven't detected us yet. Fire when ready. The Incheon Ghost launched 4 torpedoes toward the Villani flagship. They looked like standard human weapons from the outside, simple chemical propulsion missiles carrying conventional warheads. The alien sensors detected them immediately and classified them as minimal threats, but these torpedoes carried warheads filled with exotic matter that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously. When they struck the flagship, they didn't just explode. They unfolded reality itself, creating pockets of space where the normal laws of physics stopped working. Veltan's ship began tearing itself apart as sections of the hull experienced different gravitational forces. Parts of the bridge aged decades in seconds while other areas froze in time. The exotic matter warheads had turned his flagship into a physics experiment gone wrong. All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance, Veltan ordered as his command ship died around him. Signal the reserve fleet. Tell them to send reinforcements immediately. But the message never reached the reserve fleet. Lieutenant So Young had been waiting for exactly this moment from her position aboard what appeared to be a decommissioned space station. Her facility looked like an abandoned mining platform from the early days of asteroid harvesting, complete with rusted hull plating and obsolete-looking equipment. Sir, the aliens are trying to call for backup, she reported to Earth. Command. Then let's make sure their message gets garbled, replied Commander Jae-won from the hidden command center beneath the Pacific Ocean. Activate the quantum interference array. Around Earth's orbital space, dozens of satellites that had been dismissed as obsolete communication relics suddenly came to life. They had been floating in space for decades, looking like forgotten technology from humanity's early space age. The Villani had cataloged them as primitive electronic devices and ignored them completely. But these satellites were connected by quantum entanglement fields that could manipulate electromagnetic radiation across light years of distance. When So Young activated the array, the satellites created an interference pattern that turned the alien distress signal into random noise. Their message has been scrambled, sir, So Young reported. Any Villani reinforcements will receive static instead of a call for help. The battle continued to turn against the alien invaders. Dr. J. Wan's theoretical physics team had been working on their secret project for 30 years, hidden in laboratories beneath the Korean mountains. Their masterpiece looked like an abandoned mining complex, complete with old-fashioned drilling equipment and chemical processing plants. Gravitational field generators are at full power, reported research assistant Bo Young from the underground facility. We're ready to demonstrate what humans can do with artificial black holes. Begin the gravity well sequence, J1 ordered. Show our visitors what happens when you try to invade a species that's spent centuries studying how to break. Things above Earth's surface, what appeared to be obsolete mining equipment, began generating localized gravity fields. The Villani had scanned these installations repeatedly and classified them as primitive resource extraction devices. They had no idea that humans had spent decades learning how to weaponize gravity itself. Suddenly, Villani ships found themselves being pulled out of formation by invisible forces. Their advanced engines, designed to work in normal space, couldn't compensate for gravity fields that changed direction and intensity from moment to moment. "What's happening to our navigation systems?" demanded Veltan from his dying flagship. "Sir, we're detecting artificial gravity wells appearing throughout the combat zone," his science officer replied. "These humans have somehow learned to manipulate space-time itself." "That's impossible. Gravity manipulation requires technology we don't possess." "Tell that to the 3 cruisers that just got pulled into each other, sir." The alien formation collapsed as their ships were yanked around by forces they couldn't predict or counter. Vessels that had been designed to fight in open space found themselves crashed together by artificial gravity fields, their hulls grinding against each other in slow-motion collisions that no amount of armor could prevent. Major Hyun-woo watched the space battle from his position in the Seoul underground command bunker. His job was ground defense, but the aliens hadn't managed to land any troops yet. Their fleet was too busy trying to survive the humans' primitive weapons. "Sir, we're receiving reports that some alien escape pods are reaching the surface," reported Sergeant Jin-ae from the surface monitoring station. "Let them come," Hyun-woo replied with a grim smile. "We have a few surprises waiting for them, too." The Villani troops who managed to reach Earth's surface expected to face primitive human soldiers armed with chemical weapons and metal projectiles. They were equipped with personal energy shields and armor that could stop anything humans should have been able to build. They were not prepared for Sergeant Jin-ae's welcome committee. "Gas masks on," Jin-ae ordered her squad as they took positions around the alien landing site. "Remember, these compounds are deadly to us too if we're not careful." The chemical weapons that Jin-ae's team deployed looked simple enough. Basic gas canisters that could have come from any industrial facility. But these gases had been engineered at the molecular level, using 50 years of research into alien biology. When the Villani troops advanced, expecting to brush aside primitive chemical weapons, they instead encountered compounds specifically designed to exploit weaknesses in their respiratory and nervous systems. Their advanced armor meant nothing against gases that were designed to kill their specific species. "Sir, our ground forces are reporting massive casualties," Veltan's communication officer announced. "The human chemical weapons are far more sophisticated than expected." "Of course they are," Veltan said bitterly. "Nothing about these humans is what it appears to be." In space, Commander Subin prepared to reveal the final surprise. Her installation had been hidden in Earth's asteroid belt for 20 years, disguised as a disabled mining platform. The Villani had detected it early in their surveillance, but dismissed it as non-functional primitive equipment. "Earth Command, this is Asteroid Base 7, Subin reported over the quantum communication link. "The aliens have taken the bait. They're assuming we're a derelict platform." "Proceed with Operation Hammer Fall," came the reply from General Kyung-ho. Subin smiled as she activated her station's true purpose. What appeared to be a broken-down asteroid mining facility was actually humanity's largest railgun, built inside a hollowed-out asteroid and powered by fusion reactors that had been running silently for decades. Targeting the alien heavy cruiser at coordinates 77 Mark IV, Subin announced to her crew. "Load penetrator round with temporal displacement warhead." The railgun fired a projectile at 15% of light speed. But this wasn't just a kinetic weapon. The projectile carried a temporal displacement field that made it nearly impossible to track or intercept. By the time the Villani sensors detected the incoming round, it had already hit its target. The heavy cruiser simply disappeared. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but displaced slightly backwards in time so that it occupied the same space as its past self. The resulting paradox tore a hole in local space-time that consumed 2 more alien ships. "Sir, we've lost the Thunder of Dominion," reported Veltan's tactical officer. "It just vanished from our screens along with 2 escort vessels. How many ships do we have left?" 47 operational vessels out of our original 347, sir." Veltan stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In 4 hours of combat, his magnificent fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors. The primitive humans had destroyed or disabled nearly 90% of his forces using weapons that looked like museum pieces. "Sir, incoming message from Captain Minho of the human battleship Busan's Revenge," his communication officer announced. The once mighty Villani fleet was now a collection of burning wrecks and desperate survivors. Admiral Tae-min watched from his bridge as the remaining alien ships tried to regroup, their formation broken and their confidence shattered. What had started as a triumphant invasion had become a nightmare of unexpected human capabilities. "Sir, we're detecting escape pods launching from the damaged alien vessels," reported Lieutenant Nari. "Some of them are heading for Earth's surface." "Let them land," Tae-min replied. "Major Hyunwoo's ground forces are ready with their own surprises." On Earth's surface, Major Hyunwoo positioned his troops around the predicted landing zones. His soldiers carried weapons that looked like they belonged in a museum of ancient warfare. Chemical-powered rifles, metal bullets, explosive devices that used centuries-old technology. The Villani troops who were about to land would see exactly what their fleet commanders had seen: primitive human weapons that appeared to be hopelessly outdated. They would be just as wrong. "Remember your training," Hyunwoo told his squad leaders, over the radio. "These aliens have personal energy shields and advanced armor. Their sensors will detect our weapons and classify them as harmless antiques. That's exactly what we want them to think." The first Villani escape pod crashed into the Korean countryside with a shower of dirt and burning metal. Alien soldiers emerged wearing armor that glowed with protective energy fields. Their weapons were sleek devices that could vaporize matter with focused energy beams. They moved with the confidence of warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds. Sergeant Jin-A watched them through her rifle scope from a position 300 meters away. Her weapon looked like something from Earth's early space colonization period, a simple chemical-powered rifle that fired metal projectiles using gunpowder. Explosions. Any Villani scanner would classify it as a museum piece. "Target the squad leader," Jin-A whispered to her spotter. "Let's show them what happens when you underestimate human marksmanship." She pulled the trigger. The rifle fired with a loud chemical bang that echoed across the hillside. The bullet looked like a simple piece of metal flying through the air at subsonic speeds. The Villani squad leader's energy shields activated automatically to deflect the primitive projectile. The bullet passed right through the energy field and struck the alien center mass. But this wasn't an ordinary metal slug. The projectile was made of smart matter that could change its molecular structure in flight. It had analyzed the alien's energy shield frequency during its approach and reconfigured itself to exist in a phase state that the shields couldn't detect or stop. The Villani squad leader collapsed, his advanced armor useless against a bullet that could adapt to any defense system. His soldiers stared in confusion as their superior technology failed against what appeared to be the most primitive weapon humans possessed. "How is this possible?" one of the aliens demanded over their communication system. "These are chemical projectiles. Our shields are designed to stop any kinetic weapon." Sergeant Jin-A smiled as she worked the bolt on her rifle and chambered another smart matter round. "Because we didn't build better weapons to fight you," she said, knowing they couldn't hear her. "We made our old weapons smart enough to kill you." The ground battle became a demonstration of human ingenuity applied to ancient warfare concepts. Corporal Taeho's squad used grenades that looked like they were manufactured in the previous century. When the aliens scanned them, they detected simple chemical explosives wrapped in metal casings. primitive weapons that posed no threat to advanced armor. But these grenades contained exotic matter that had been compressed into stable forms and disguised as ordinary explosive compounds. When they detonated, they didn't just create explosions. They opened temporary rifts in dimensional space that sucked everything within a 50-meter radius into parallel universes. Private Su Jin carried what appeared to be an ancient flamethrower, the kind of weapon that human soldiers had used centuries ago in Earth's world wars. The Vallani troops who encountered her assumed she was armed with a crude chemical burning device that could barely penetrate their energy shields. They learned too late that her primitive flamethrower shot streams of plasma that had been disguised as chemical fire. The plasma was contained within fields that made it appear to be ordinary burning liquid until it contacted the target. When it struck alien armor, it revealed its true nature as matter heated to stellar core temperatures. Back in space, the surviving Vallani ships attempted a desperate boarding action against the human vessels. If they could capture some of the primitive ships, they might understand how humans had hidden such advanced technology inside ancient-looking weapons. Commander Hye Jin watched the alien boarding pods approach Seoul's Pride from her position on the bridge. The pods were sleek and fast, carrying Vallani Marines equipped with the best personal weapons their empire could provide. "Should we shoot them down, Commander?" asked Weapons Officer Dong Ho. "No," Hye Jin replied with a cold smile. "Let them board. I want them to see our ship from the inside. They'll find it very educational." The Vallani boarding pods attached to Seoul's Pride with metallic clangs that echoed through the hull. Alien Marines cut through the outer airlocks with energy tools and poured into the corridors, expecting to find primitive humans armed with chemical weapons and metal bullets. Instead, they found Sergeant Jin-A waiting for them with her squad of primitively armed human soldiers. The aliens raised their energy weapons confidently, knowing that human chemical weapons couldn't penetrate their personal armor. "Welcome aboard Seoul's Pride," Jinny announced over the ship's communication system. "You're about to receive a practical demonstration of human chemical engineering." She activated canisters that had been hidden throughout the ship's corridors. Gas poured out of vents that the aliens had assumed were part of the ship's primitive life support system. The Vallani Marines weren't concerned. Their armor could filter any chemical weapon that humans should have been capable of producing. But these gases had been designed specifically to kill Vallani physiology. Dr. Sunja's research team had spent 50 years analyzing samples from crashed alien probes, learning exactly how Vallani biology worked and what molecular compounds would be lethal to their species. The gas that filled Seoul's Pride corridors looked like simple industrial chemicals. The alien scanners identified familiar carbon and hydrogen compounds that posed no threat to advanced life support systems. But these molecules had been engineered to bond with Vallani neural tissue in ways that bypassed all their technological protections. Within minutes, the boarding party was dead, their advanced armor unable to protect them from weapons that attacked their biology directly rather than trying to penetrate their technology. "Boarding party neutralized," Jin-A reported. "To the bridge. No human casualties." "Excellent work, Sergeant," Commander Hye Jin replied. "Now let's show the rest of their fleet what happens when you try to board a human ship." The news of the failed boarding action spread panic through the remaining Vallani vessels. Their Marines, equipped with the Empire's best personal weapons and armor, had been killed by primitive chemical gases deployed by humans who shouldn't have understood alien biology. Commander Subin prepared to deliver the final demonstration of human technological deception. Her hidden railgun in the asteroid belt had been silent since destroying the alien heavy cruiser, maintaining its disguise as abandoned mining equipment. "Earth Command, this is Asteroid Base 7, Subin reported. "The surviving alien ships are attempting to retreat. Request permission to demonstrate our extended range capabilities." "Permission granted," came General Kyung-ho's voice over the communication link. "Show them that there's nowhere to run." Subin's railgun fired again, but this time the projectile was different. Instead of a temporal displacement warhead, she loaded a tracking round enhanced with quantum entanglement technology. The projectile could follow targets through hyperspace itself. The round struck a fleeing Vallani destroyer, just as it began its jump to faster-than-light travel. The quantum entanglement field locked onto the ship's hyperspace signature and followed it through the dimensional fold. The destroyer exploded in hyperspace, sending a message to any other Volani ships that might be listening. There was no escape from human weapons. "Sir, we've lost contact with the destroyer Voidwalker," reported Veltan's communication officer from the damaged flagship. "It was destroyed during its hyperspace jump." "That's impossible," Veltan said, though his voice lacked conviction. Nothing had been impossible for these humans. "Weapons cannot function in hyperspace. Tell that to our dead crew, sir." The remaining Volani ships found themselves trapped between human forces that had revealed capabilities far beyond anything they had expected. Their energy weapons, so effective against conventional targets, were useless against enemies who had spent 50 years learning how to make primitive technology deadly. Captain Yujin's stealth destroyer Inchin Ghost decloaked near the alien formation, its hull scarred and battered from decades of service. To Volani sensors, it looked like an obsolete patrol vessel that should have been scrapped years ago. "Attention Volani survivors," Yujin broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Yujin of the Earth Defense Force. You have seen what our museum PI." The Volani flagship Eternal Dominion drifted through space like a dying whale, its elegant hull cracked and bleeding atmosphere into the void. Admiral Taman watched from the Bridge of Soul's Pride as the once mighty vessel struggled to maintain power to its life support systems. What had been the pride of an galactic empire was now a broken shell, kept alive only by human mercy. "Sir, incoming transmission from the alien flagship," reported Communications Officer Dong Ho. "They're requesting permission to speak directly with you." "Put them on screen," Taman ordered. Commander Veltan's blue face appeared on the viewing screen, but he looked very different from the arrogant leader who had demanded Earth's surrender 4 days ago. His uniform was torn and stained, his eyes hollow with the shock of absolute defeat. Behind him, alien crew members worked desperately to keep their dying ship functional. "Admiral Taemin of the human fleet," Veltan began, his voice lacking any trace of its former confidence. "I am prepared to discuss terms of surrender." "The same terms you offered us," Taemin replied coldly. "Unconditional surrender. Your ships will be escorted to the edge of our solar system, where you will be allowed to return to your empire with a message." "What message?" Taemin leaned forward in his command chair. "That humanity is not as primitive as you assumed, and that attacking us was the worst mistake your empire has ever made." Veltan was quiet for a long moment, staring at something off-screen. When he spoke again, his voice was filled with bitter understanding. "How long have you been preparing for this day?" "Since your people first crashed a scout ship in our ocean 73 years ago," Taemin answered honestly. "We knew we weren't alone in the universe. We also knew we were behind in technology, so we decided to get creative." "Your weapons," Veltan said slowly. "They appeared to be museum pieces. Ancient chemical rockets, primitive ballistic missiles, obsolete nuclear warheads. Our sensors confirmed that assessment." "Your sensors told you exactly what we wanted them to tell you," Taemin explained. "Dr. Sunja, would you like to answer the commander's question?" Dr. Sunja stepped into view of the communication screen carrying her ever-present briefcase. She looked tired but satisfied, like a teacher whose students had finally learned an important lesson. "Commander Veltan," she began, "your empire made the same mistake that every technologically superior force has made throughout human history. You assumed that newer automatically means better." She opened her briefcase and pulled out an ancient crossbow, its wooden stock worn smooth by centuries of use. "This weapon is 2,000 years old. It can still kill someone just as dead today as it could when it was new. Good design doesn't become useless just because something newer exists." "But your modifications," Veltan protested. "The phase shifting. Warheads, the quantum targeting systems, the gravitational manipulation technology. Those are not primitive concepts." "You're absolutely right," Dr. Sunja agreed. "But we didn't replace our old weapons with new technology. We enhanced our old weapons with new technology. There's a crucial difference." Engineer Boram joined the conversation from her orbital platform. "Commander, when you build a new weapon, from scratch you start with nothing and hope it works. When you improve an existing weapon, you start with something you know works and make it better. Our chemical rockets still use chemical propulsion, added Captain Dongwu from his weapons station. But we enhanced them with quantum tunnel capabilities. Our nuclear warheads still split atoms, but we added exotic matter to multiply their destructive power. Veltan's expression showed growing comprehension and horror. You took weapons we knew how to counter and made them uncounterable. Exactly, Taemin confirmed. Your energy shields were designed to stop energy weapons and conventional projectiles. They weren't designed to stop phase-shifting projectiles that could tunnel through dimensional barriers. Your point defense systems could intercept normal missiles, added Pilot Jiho over the communication link from his fighter. But they couldn't track missiles that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Commander Veltan looked around, his devastated bridge, where alien crew members worked to repair systems that human weapons had damaged in ways their technology couldn't understand. Our empire has conquered 12 worlds in 50 years. Every enemy we faced tried to match our technology with their own advanced weapons. And they all failed because they were fighting the wrong battle, Dr. Sunja observed. They tried to out-technology you instead of outthinking you. But how did you hide such modifications from our sensors? Veltan asked. Engineer Boram smiled. We didn't hide them, we disguised them. Your scanners detected exactly what they were programmed to detect. Chemical propulsion, metal projectiles, nuclear fission reactions. They just didn't detect the quantum enhancements that made those familiar technologies lethal to your ships. Your artificial intelligence identified our weapons as primitive because they used familiar energy signatures, explained Dr. Jae-won from his underground laboratory. But those familiar signatures were camouflage for technology that your sensors weren't programmed to recognize. Veltan was silent for several minutes, processing the full extent of human deception. When he finally spoke, his voice was filled with grudging respect. You turned our own technological superiority against us. We turned your arrogance against you, Taemin corrected. Your technology was superior, but your thinking was limited. You assumed that because our weapons looked old, they were harmless. Our defense, Veltan said weakly. Your weapons did look primitive, they were supposed to. Captain Yujin interjected from her stealth destroyer. The best trap looks like an accident. The best weapon looks harmless. The best strategy appears to be weakness until the moment it becomes strength. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from Lieutenant Nari. Sir, we're detecting additional ships approaching from the outer system. Configuration unknown. More Villani reinforcements? Taemin asked. No, sir, Nari replied after studying her sensors. These are different ships, multiple species, all approaching under diplomatic flags. Dr. Sunja chuckled. Word travels fast in the galaxy, it seems. Over the next several hours, ships from a dozen different alien civilizations arrived in Earth's solar system. They came not as conquerors, but as potential allies, drawn by reports of the species that had defeated the mighty Villani Empire with museum pieces and antique technology. The Rigelian ambassador was first to request a meeting. Honorable humans, she transmitted. Our people wish to discuss mutual defense agreements. Any species capable of turning relics into weapons of such devastating effectiveness would be valuable ally. The Centaurian Trade Federation sent similar messages, as did the Andromedan Research Collective and even the mysterious Voidwalkers from the Galactic Rim. Each message carried the same underlying theme: respect for human ingenuity and desire for friendship rather than conflict. It seems your victory has attracted attention, Veltan observed over the still-open communication channel. Good, Taemin replied. Let them all know what happens when you underestimate humanity. Maybe the next visitors will come in peace instead of demanding surrender. As the surviving Villani ships prepared for their journey home, their crews carried with them detailed scans of the human weapons that had destroyed their fleet. But the scans showed exactly what human engineers had designed them to show. Familiar technologies using familiar principles. The real secrets of human weapons enhancement remained hidden, disguised within energy signatures and structural designs that looked primitive to galactic sensors. Future enemies would see the same thing the Villani had seen, ancient weapons that appeared to be museum pieces. Young Cadet Yunji watched the alien ships departing from her position aboard the training vessel Mokpo's Dream. She turned to her instructor, Colonel Wu Jin, with a question that had been bothering her. "Sir, why did we choose to disguise our advanced technology as primitive weapons? Wouldn't it have been easier to just build obviously advanced weapons?" Colonel Wu Jin, a veteran of the Mars colonial wars, smiled grimly.
"Cadet, in war the most important thing is not what your weapons can do. It's what your enemy thinks your weapons can do." He gestured toward the retreating Villani ships. "If we had built obviously advanced weapons, they would have brought obviously
advanced countermeasures. Instead, they brought countermeasures for primitive weapons and died because our primitive weapons weren't primitive at all. But sir, won't word spread about our real capabilities?" "Maybe," Wu Jin admitted. "But by then, we'll have enhanced our weapons even further. The beauty of our approach is that we never stop improving. Every enemy teaches us new ways to make our old weapons more deadly." Yunji looked thoughtful. "So our weapons will always look primitive to new enemies?" "Exactly. And every new enemy will make the same mistake the Villani made. They'll see chemical, rockets and metal bullets and nuclear warheads, and they'll assume they know what they're facing. Until it's too late." "Until it's too late," Wu Jin confirmed. "Remember this lesson, Cadet. In warfare, appearances are just another weapon. The enemy who looks harmless might be the most dangerous of all. As Earth's orbital defenses powered down and returned to their disguises as obsolete equipment, the Tau wreckage of the Villani fleet served as a monument to the danger of judging human